All right, here with CBS Sports NBA Insider Bill Reiter, and the Nuggets take care of business. And really, we talk about all this time about Dame time, and in the fourth quarter, it was none of that. It was all about the Denver Nuggets.
I mean, this is a conversation that we've had around the NBA for years now. It doesn't matter the superstar you have if he has no help. And there was no defensive effort at all by Portland in this game. And to be fair, they were great offensively, the Trailblazers. This is stunning to me. A 50-40-90 game for Portland in an elimination game loss. 50% from the field, 40% from three, 90% from the free throw line. They took a ton of shots, a ton of threes. It's a stunning loss, and you referenced this. Damian Lillard ran out of steam. I don't think it's not a choke. It's not like you see from other guys. He didn't get help in this series, and it caught up to him in that fourth quarter.
Yeah, certainly didn't get help in the series, especially in that Game 5, because that's a game they should have won when his team goes 1 for 17 in the overtime sessions. When you look at this Denver Nuggets team, right, Michael Porter Jr. is on fire in the first quarter. It's great. It's a great storyline, right? He has 22 points in the first quarter, goes over on his points prop in the first quarter, but then scoreless in the second half. What is your takeaway from a game like that from Michael Porter Jr.?
This is where the love-hate, and really it's love frustration that Mike Malone has for Michael Porter Jr. Massive talent. I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say a transcendent offensive player, but he just has, as people in that organization have described it, as concentration lapses. He got in his mojo, he got in his momentum, and obviously it trailed off, but he carried that team early when it felt like Portland was going to take control. And as much as Jamal Murray is a remarkable player and was incredible last year in the bubble, I think the real focus on MPJ should be he has done what he needed to do to fill some of that vacuum with Murray out, even if in this case it was in this ridiculous first quarter, and then he kind of faded afterwards.
Yeah, it was a heck of a first quarter. His highest points in any quarter in his career as he goes for 22, 6 of 7 from beyond the arc. And you take a look at what this team has accomplished. The Denver Nuggets now 17-7 straight up since Jamal Murray suffered the torn ACL in mid-April. What does it say about Mike Malone and his team to have reached this far, moving on to the second round?
Yeah, it says that he has created, we throw this word around a lot, but he's created an actual culture and an understanding of what is expected of the guys on the team. And it reminds me, and the comparison can be a little stretched, but it reminds me of the San Antonio Spurs in some of those glory years and some of those non-glory years when they didn't win championships, but they were always competitive and they made those postseason runs. The next man up thing is a really nice cliche. It's not often a reality in the NBA. It is for this organization. And look, it certainly helps, like with the Spurs, right? They had Timmy Duncan, and you've got Nikola Jokic, who will be the MVP, who got my vote, who probably got almost every person's vote in that awards round this year. That makes it a little bit easier. But the takeaway is they know who they are. They believe in each other. They've been through some wars last year, which is significant. Those comebacks matter in terms of just what you build, the muscle memory of excellence in the playoffs, and they're not to be taken lightly, no matter who they play going forward.
Nikola Jokic, the presumptive MVP, again, another efficient game from him. 36 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. Did turn the ball over 5 times, so certainly that's something you want to clean up going forward. But he was 8 for 8 from the free throw line, and they really relied on him to get to this point, because you're thinking, Jamal Murray, their second leading scorer, he goes down. And at that point, you're like, well, how is this Denver team really going to look in the playoffs, because they're going to get tested? You said it before we came on here. Portland's really not that great of a team, so it was a good matchup ultimately for them in the first round.
That's where you can't look past Denver, because you're right. Portland's not that good of a team. Damian Lillard, you can make an argument that Damian Lillard is the best player in the NBA over the last couple seasons, especially when it comes to primetime. He's certainly a top 5 player. It's not as if the Denver Nuggets, though, are this complete team without a star. They're a complete team, a well-coached team with a history of comebacks with the soon-to-be MVP. And Jokic had, what, 27 second-half points. Wasn't great in the first half. But the reality is, and I think his team feeds off this, they believe in Jokic the same way that Portland believes in Dame, that the Lakers believe in LeBron James, and that's part of the reason the Nuggets don't panic. And in a really big game, in a really big second half, as Jokic started to play better, you knew his team was gonna fight to the very end, and I think that's a big part of the reason that comeback happened. They know who they are, and they know who Jokic is too.
Yeah, so Denver is moving on to play the winner of the Suns-Lakers series. We could have an answer by the end of the night there if the Suns are able to take care of business. In terms of Portland and kind of the post-mortem here, Damian Lillard signed through the 24-25 season, but certainly in this era of the NBA, we have seen guys force themselves out of their situation. What is the future for Damian Lillard in Portland?
I don't know, and I know that people around the NBA that I've asked over the last week saying if he loses this series, if things go badly, and their answer is they're not sure, which is new, and it's significant because up until this point, very few things were certain in the NBA, but one certainty was Damian Lillard sticks. Damian Lillard doesn't want to pair up with a super team. Dame isn't going anywhere, but you saw the frustration, I think, especially in Game 5. You referenced the 1 of 17 in overtime from his teammates. Damian Lillard wants to win, and he's been doubted at every step of his career, under-recruited, under-drafted in the Upper Northwest, and he has been able to carve for himself this legacy that is incomplete if he can't win a championship. And just talking to folks around the NBA, it's all speculation, but there's a sense that there could be some problems. And you're right, if he doesn't want to be in Portland, he's not going to be in Portland because that's the way the NBA works now.
I wanted to also read this stat for you. Damian Lillard was, I mean, it was horrendous of what he was in the fourth quarter. 5 points, 1 of 6, 0 for 3 from beyond the arc. I mean, you got to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I didn't deliver. My teammates certainly deliver in the fourth quarter because they had a 14-point lead in this game. And now he goes into the offseason thinking, man, I wish I could have done more. And look, he had that epic game in Game 5. He goes for 55, playoff record, 12 three-pointers made. But if it doesn't get a win, it doesn't matter, Bill.
No, none of it matters. And the thing about Dame time that's so interesting, the big shot against Houston, the big shot that really ended the Thunder, the ridiculous 2 big shots to go to those overtime showdowns against Denver in Game 5, and it all adds up to an L. And you just said it. How does, it's not even what's true. Does Damian Lillard go into his summer and decide, I failed because my team failed me? Or, this is his history, we'll see what happens, does Damian Lillard go into this offseason and say, I failed my team and we're coming back? How he processes what you just said, what he concludes the problem is going to be very significant to where he is in a year or two.
Yeah, this Portland Trailblazers team certainly underachieved considering what they had on that roster with C.J. McCollum. He wasn't all that great in Game 5. Didn't necessarily play his best capability here in Game 6. So the Portland Trailblazers season is over. One more thing, because I'm curious about this. Nikola Jokic, 13th playoff game with 30 points, breaking a tie with Carmelo Anthony for second most in Nuggets NBA playoff history. Only Alex English has more. Carmelo Anthony, 37 years old, future Hall of Famer. People can make the debate. Is he a Hall of Famer? Is he not? Does he come back for another season? What's his future?
I personally... Carmelo Anthony will be a Hall of Famer, as sure as the sun will come up in the morning. I'm not sure that means that he should be a Hall of Famer. I think maybe there's too big of a welcoming committee as it relates to that. But this was a place that Melo wanted to play, and it's probably best to remember, nobody wanted Carmelo Anthony when he went to Portland. He literally could not find a job, and he was good last year. He was good in the bubble. He was less good in this series, in this situation, if he's not a part of that Portland organization, and really with Damian Lillard, because a big part of the pull for Melo is if you play with Dame, you feel like you can win some games. If Melo's not a part of this organization, outside of maybe LeBron welcome his friend, it's hard to see where he's got a spot.
Real quickly, Denver moves on to face the Lakers or the Suns. Do they have a preference? Do they want to see the Lakers? If the Lakers could figure out a way to win 2 games, is that the better matchup?
You know, I think that your first reaction, if you're the Denver Nuggets, is that you want to play the team that doesn't have LeBron James. But I think their answer is going to come tonight. I think it really depends. If Anthony Davis goes out there and he's Anthony Davis, and we saw Chris Paul return and look like Chris Paul again, and the next game not. So it's hard to know. It's a really nebulous year as it relates to injuries. It's landmines everywhere. If it doesn't look like there's a healthy AD, you want the Lakers. If it looks like AD is the man tonight, you are rooting like crazy for the Suns in Game 7.
All right, we'll see how it plays out. Of course, full post-game analysis when that game goes final. Lakers and Suns, that game just getting underway. But right now, we know that the Portland Trailblazers are done. Eliminated in 6 games, and they had a fourth quarter collapse that they will have to look at themselves and figure out what the heck just happened. Getting outscored 28-14 in the fourth quarter. They shot just 5 of 18 from the floor, including 0 for 5 from beyond the arc. Damian Lillard, their superstar, goes for just 5 points in the fourth, and it all adds up.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.